4 minutes after it. Okay, well, thanks for jumping on, you guys. So, this little course that I'm going to go through today is just sharing basically all the things that have been going on and the resources and tools that have helped me over the last few months. And I think I told some of you guys, like, I hired a coach. I'm going through my coaching certification, but just in this time, it's been a weird time. It's been a weird time personally for a lot of us, but then it's also been a weird time just in this world. So today is all about basically reconnecting with your identity so that you can just kind of go into whatever this part of the season is offering you. And it was interesting because I was reading this study that talked about how 98% of women are feeling disconnected, women and men actually. And how do we get back to ourselves, our life, our passion, when you're going through these different times of uncertainty. And definitely this is not just for women. I think we all kind of go through different times of our life where, maybe we're young, or maybe we're married, or in a relationship, or we've got kids, or navigating midlife, or building a career. And so what happens is when we fall into these identities that are so important, it can help us kind of give us guidance, but it can also be crippling when we're ready to move forward. And if you're anything like me, I was in corporate America. I know some of you guys have been in corporate America and, doing the ladder thing. And then all of a sudden you find yourself having to pivot. And so, today we're going to talk about 90-day cycles. And I did talk with you, a couple of you guys, about 90-day cycles. It's been proven. There's been tons of studies. James Clear wrote a book about change and how 90-day cycles can actually help just put things into, I guess, better perspective. And it's funny when we think about like year goals, it seems like we overestimate what we can do in a year and we underestimate what we can do in 90 days. So anyway, I'll be referring to 90-day cycles throughout this because this is one of the things that has helped me a lot. But kind of for a sneak peek and overview, what I know is that changing our life starts with really changing our beliefs. In order to transform our lives, we have to change something that's in our mind. And so everything that we believe right now is giving us this result that we have in our life right now. So I grew up the youngest of 5 in a Catholic military family. So you can imagine some of the beliefs that I have and have been carrying on in my life, even though some of those things don't serve me anymore. But we all have these belief patterns that we've carried with us. And so now it's, kind of coming to a place where how can we really look at those things that are ingrained in us and be able to break patterns that might need to be broken, and things that might be kind of tough to change. So one thing I know is if you just commit to the process, it's never too late. It's your best years are not behind you. Things are not necessarily as bad as it feels like sometimes. And we'll be talking about feelings a little bit in this. One thing I can say too is I feel like I've been where you are. I feel like we all share some commonalities. Especially being a woman, but if you're a guy on this call, same thing, from zero to hero. I feel like we've had all these moments in between. And I think about where my mind was at when I was career building. I think about where my mind was at when I was overwhelmed with motherhood. I think about all these different things. And, we had a little theme in our house that we were just making memories. And so that helped us navigate, some of the tough times because we just knew like, hey, nothing lasts forever. But recently, something that happened with me was that I was, I moved to Seattle in July and then I got laid off in August, which some of you guys know. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? And everything in me kind of felt like I just need to get back in it. I need to get back into the hustle. I need to, continue what seems familiar and what feels secure. And it took everything in me to just stop for a second and go, just because I've done it in the past doesn't necessarily mean that I need to continue to do it, especially if like you feel that nudge, like, when you feel that nudge where something's got to change, or that like there's more wherever you're at, you know. And it's not to say that life is terrible, for sure. It just means that you have this like tug in your heart where, you know, you're not, you know, that you're not living your fullest expression of your real self. And so one thing that I do know is that the world actually changes when all of us wake up in our lives and we pursue what our higher calling is. We process the emotions and the limiting beliefs. I wish there was another word for limiting beliefs, but that's really what it is. It's beliefs that are limiting you. But when we capture our deepest desire and we actually move on it, like amazing things happen in this world. And so most people, I would say, are living kind of an unconscious, unintentional life. I mean, we're kind of having like a little bit of a groundhog day where it's the same day over and over. We're in survival mode a lot of the times. We're lacking in kind of the emotional resilience or mental resilience, and sometimes even physical resilience to do whatever it takes for us to kind of get out of that pattern. And it's easy to do, like we all, you know, it's easy to do. But what it feels like when that happens and you're kind of living by default is it feels like you can't keep up with your work and family. You are stressed out to the max. You're, you know, you lack motivation. You're kind of seeking temporary pleasure to feel better, you know, and that might be in different ways. Maybe you're trying to stay safe in your comfort zone or stay small and avoiding emotion. Like that is one way to not feel it, is just avoid it altogether. And when you lack that feeling of purpose and connection, it manifests itself in ways that create these emotions of feeling, you know, sad, alone, depressed, unmotivated, and you kind of have all of this, I guess, fear. But most of all, you're wasting this resource and this time and all of these wonderful things that you could be sharing with the world. Now, flip side, if we were to say, okay, you know what? Show me how to live with purpose. Show me how to have emotional resilience. Show me how to navigate through all of these tough times because they're so tough. What that feels like inside is that it feels like you have purpose. It feels like you have meaning. It feels like you're deeply connected to the people in your life. You're doing what matters most to you. You know, you feel like you're on fire. You're happy to wake up. Like I get excited when I think about it and just saying it out loud, because I know for a lot of you guys that are on the call, like, you know what that feels like because you felt it before. But maybe this is kind of this meh kind of time, season in your life, and you're not quite sure how to get back to where you were feeling hopeful and optimistic about the future and your own, you know, path and journey. So, you know, my goal is to help all of us feel more confident, feel more, have more clarity, and have more joy in our life while we try to navigate this. So I'm going to plant a seed about the 90-day cycle. And before I do that, just throw it in the chat. Like, are you down with that? Did I hit it somewhere where you're like, yeah, okay, I'm in for this, whatever this thing is? Put it in the chat if you are. I didn't hit record. I should have. Oh my goodness. Oh well. Okay, so I'm going to plant a seed with you about 90-day cycles. And I know that that a lot of us who have been in corporate America, or a lot of us who have been in positions where, you know, we got to get things done, it's always on a lot of annual reflection. But 90-day cycles have been a game changer for me. And there's benefits of designing your life 90 days at a time. And trust me when I tell you that, like, it's hard to stay with something for an entire year unless you've built it up day by week, by month, by quarter. And then you go into the next quarter feeling like, okay, I got some results. And what you can accomplish in the 90 days will blow your mind when you commit to something that's really important to you. And that, I use that word commitment because it takes a little bit of energy to kind of break through all of those patterns. So, you know, when you think of a time can you think of a time when you made a change? How long did it take? You know, motivation. I love motivation, but motivation alone can only go so far. You kind of need to have a system. You need to have a plan. It's helpful to have a buddy. So most of us, 90 days is pretty doable. So you get to decide after we go through this, like, what are the rituals? What are the patterns? What are the little baby steps that you can do with intention in the 90 days that work for you? And it's not me saying, like, do this, do this, do this. You're going to come up with all of this once I show you kind of the creation cycle that I went through. But one of the cool things about the 90-day cycle is, it helps you get focused on the things that are important to you. It kind of keeps you from spiraling into negativity about a million things that really don't matter. And it keeps your nose out of stuff that, like, where you don't belong. You'll find that you just don't have time because you are so committed to your 90 days and you're so committed to the change that it's creating for you day to day that it literally feels inevitable and it feels so good. So I like gamifying it. So I'll weave a little bit of that into it if you're somewhat competitive and you really like gamifying things. But ask yourself a question. What do you want the next 90 days to be really about? Like, what would give you so much purpose and joy in life? Like, what are you kind of putting off? And just throw it into the chat just so that I can see, like, if we're on the same page. Because I know a lot of us always have goals, but like, seriously, if 90 days from now we could be getting on a call or meeting for lunch or something, and we would be like, okay, this was my 90-day thing and this is what I accomplished, what would that be? I'll let you throw it in the chat really quick. And I'll send over some resources too to you guys. I'll send over some resources to you via email that will help you kind of get the stuff down on paper too. Okay, so let's start with the steps. There's about 6 of them. So step 1 is going to be figure out what you're already believing. So as soon as you set a goal, like, you'll notice your brain will offer you this barrage of thoughts like, oh, you're not going to be able to do this. You've tried this before and failed. You're not the kind of person that has achieved this goal. Maybe you're thinking, I'm too old, I'm too inexperienced, maybe, or I'm too young or inexperienced. Like, it's just all that negative self-talk and all of that stuff that keeps you safe. And I will tell you, this is good to bring to the surface. So when you're sitting there and you're writing down, like, what it is that you want to create in the next 90 days. Thank you, Diane. I see yours. It's good to, like, let your brain offer you these things. So if you have uncertain thoughts about it, write it down, because this, I guarantee these thoughts are going to be running in the back of your mind. So you might as well get them out in the open so that you can kind of see how you're going to change them. And it's very difficult to rewrite a script when you don't know what the script is saying. So what is it for you? If it's that you want to build your business and then you start hearing all of these little things kind of come into play, what are those questions that are coming in? Like, your brain wants to offer you some thoughts. So just write them down. I know for a lot of people that are in my world, fitness is a big deal. And they'll say, well, I've been trying to lose 10 pounds, and when you think about that goal, the emotions that follow that goal, because you've heard all of these little beliefs, is like, depressed, like, defeated, all of those, feelings like you won't be able to accomplish the goal. So we want to get them out. Now, without overthinking it, if you were able to accomplish this, how would you write it down in a goal? So could you write it in a way that would make it so easy for someone to know if you achieved it or not? So if growing your business is one where it can weather the state of what's going on in this world today, how would we know that that was accomplished? If you were wanting, like, to spend more time in your relationships, how would you know if you actually move the needle? Like, you have to get that defined in it. For losing weight, it's like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. So it's going to be pretty easy to know whether or not you did that or not, because the scale will tell you. But when you're thinking about different things right now, or even, when you're saying, like, I don't even know if I have a goal. So your goal would be to, like, really maybe the result that you want is to really dial into who you are right now so that you can remember, like, what are the things that I love? How would I want to spend my day? And when you start asking these questions, and all of a sudden you can come up with okay, I'm going to try that. I want to try that for 90 days. And it doesn't have to be big, you guys. I mean, honestly, I will tell you, the goal doesn't actually even matter. The goal is more about laying the groundwork for consistency. Okay. So, I just want to say that. I told some of the gals that I met with the other day, like, you have two kind of steins. One is your Frankenstein, that he sees the dark side, he's scary. You say a goal and he talks to you like you'll never do it, and it's a scary kind of dark side. And then you have Einstein, where it's like, no, we can find a way. There's going to be a process. I'm not afraid to fail. It's going to make things better. Like, so you have to kind of figure out like what Stein is talking, but literally write down, what is this thing that I want to create in 90 days? What are the Steins telling me? Imagine how you would feel like if you were able to create this result. Like, how would it feel internally to you to have this? So, like, for example, for me, mine was, I really want to transform my mind and body this year in results that are visible. And so when I started thinking about like, how would this feel to me? I would feel like I had more longevity. I would feel strong. I would feel vibrant. I would feel more healthy, like all these things. So you start writing this stuff down, and this is just like a brain dump, seriously. And you start thinking about like, what are the steps that you might need to take those results? And we've done this exercise, right? Where you start thinking, well, I need to do this. I need to do this. But you might even use ChatGPT. I know I've used that too before. So if you say, for instance, one of my friends said, I want to start a podcast in 90 days. She stuck it into ChatGPT and she said, hey, I want to start a podcast in 90 days. Can you help me brainstorm everything that I would need to do to make this happen? And it was incredible that just started kind of coming up with different things. And then you actually have to ask, what are the obstacles that I might anticipate? And this is good, right? You want to know if there's a bump in the road. So all of those obstacles down so that you can kind of get it in your head. Then we engage with the limiting belief. So this is the next step. Your brain's going to offer you all this stuff. It's going to tell you all these things. So just ask it, what else? What else do I need to be thinking about, and get it all out? And then we embody this belief. And so what this is it's so powerful, because if you're willing to be patient with yourself while these beliefs kind of come to the surface, you can let your brain offer the thought. So say it's like, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not, I have no resources. You can actually engage back and forth with that, with they call it the primitive brain, and ask why. Like, why do I believe these things? Like, is this true? And I'll tell you, when I was getting into, I was leaving pathology and I was getting into hereditary cancer, and I was like, dude, I'm applying for this job and I don't even know anything about this. Like, I had been dealing in anatomic and molecular pathology. I didn't know anything about mutations. I didn't know anything about, all of the chromosomes and all of these different things that I needed to get through to learn. And I remember writing down, I went through the same process. This was like 10 years ago. And I was like, I don't know if I can learn this. I don't know if I have enough energy to travel. I don't know if I can, if I'm going to like this. I don't know if I have the time. I don't know if I can learn this late in my life. And I literally drew a line of all my limiting beliefs. And then on the other side, I was like, well, hold on a minute. Actually, I am pretty smart. I learn pretty quick. I'm a quick learner. I do like to travel. My kids are gone and I have some freedom now to be more organized. I started thinking about like how fun it would be to help people kind of come through this process. And I started kind of just going back and forth against every limiting belief I had, saying like, is that really true? And remembering, like really remembering the times in my life when I proved that to be wrong. And so that's what I'm saying for you, like engage with that limiting belief, whether you're changing, an industry, pivoting your career, whether you're concerned if you can't do particular goal, like I want to run a marathon, or I want to focus on this or that. I used to always say, like, I'm not a dancer. And me, like, I love to dance, but in my mind, there was this thing that was telling me, like, who do you think you are? Like, you do not have any dance background. Why are you teaching all these people? And so I had to kind of go through all of these things to write down what those limiting beliefs were, and then challenge my own self to say, like, actually, I have a purpose here. And it might be to lead 70 women twerking every day, that I teach class, so that we can fulfill some kind of joyous hour in our day. And if that's all that I do, then that's absolutely enough. So I see that some of you guys have written down, like, what your goals are, and I love that, because those are so good. Focusing on your fitness, focusing on your skills, not listening to the voice in your head that's saying that, oh, you're sick, or you can't do it, or that's a dream you have to let go of. I mean, it's really not. And if you think about it this way, somebody told me this one time, your thoughts become your feelings. The way you feel about it becomes your belief. Your belief becomes your habit, and then your habit becomes your character. I'm just a person who, and then that habit defines your destiny. So if we know that this is the path in which we go, then it would make sense, right, to go to the origin of it, where it is our thoughts. And so when we can challenge our own thoughts, and it's not easy, you guys, oh my gosh, like, so much of the stuff is embedded in your head so deep, or, you're listening to things. Like right now, I am pulling back from the news. I can't, and it's not to say that I'm putting my head in the sand, but it is to say I am protecting my peace. And a lot of the things that I'm hearing may inform what my thoughts are. And those thoughts are going to inform what I believe. And those beliefs are going to create an emotion in me, which is like fear, uncertainty, scarcity, whatever the other things are. I haven't been listening to the news because I just don't like it. But at the same time, I can also process these feelings, and we'll talk a little bit about this. But when you think about, like, what is your result that you want to accomplish, maybe that you want to focus on, and then you let yourself have these limiting beliefs and write them down on paper and just be like, let me hear you. And then you challenge kind of those beliefs and go, well, actually, and even if you write that at the top, well, actually, no. Here's when I did something hard. Here's when I was able to overcome obstacles. Here's when my body was able to heal itself. Here's where I found an option that I didn't think of. A lot of times it's the meaning that we give the thought. When things happen to us, we give it a certain meaning, and it becomes this narrative in our mind. And so if you are asking yourself, or if you can, like, what would be a good step that could spark a positive change? Are there any options that I haven't considered about this particular thing? Is there any other time where maybe you had a milestone like this, major milestone in your life, where you're like, oh my gosh, here's something similar. So you start remembering, like, okay, I can actually find my way through it, and I can find other instances in which, I can continue to grow. So once you have that, then you begin to create this new identity. And tell me if like it's resonating, or if I'm going too fast, or if you need me to repeat anything, because I know I get excited about some stuff like this, and I will go fast sometimes, and it reminds me, like, okay, hold on, people are writing down notes. And I can see your stuff in the chat. So step 5 is creating the new identity. And I heard that somebody told me this a long time ago. They said, you can say I run, or you can say I'm a runner. Totally different. Totally different thing. You can say I win, or you can say I'm a winner. That you can see and feel how that is an identity shift. You can say I'm athletic, or you can say I'm an athlete. And you can see your mind knows the difference between the two. So when you're trying to make this change, and James Clear talks about it in his book, the book about the 12-week year and the 90-day cycles, they talk about it a lot in like creating these belief structures inside your mind to begin to identify with somebody who is healthy, fit, and strong. I'm a solopreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an expert consultant. I'm a fill in the blank. And one of the ones that I use and have been using for the last 90 days is I'm the kind of person that, and because my 90-day goal was to transform my body and mind, I'm the kind of person that drinks her water every day. I'm the kind of person that takes excellent care of herself. I am now getting time for myself. Like I'm carving out that time because I'm the kind of woman who takes excellent care of herself. I am monitoring my thoughts. Like I'm really sitting with them. I'm taking time for my own self-care, especially when, like when you're taking care of somebody else, or you're taking care of like your parents or your children or your grandchildren, like self-care kind of goes to the back burner. And then you're like, God, why am I so tired? But if you can think like, I'm the kind of person that has good nutrition. I'm the kind of person that gets her sleep. Like I have on my phone this alarm that goes off at 9 o'clock and it says wind down. And no matter what I'm doing, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when that alarm goes off, I am out. So Hub will be watching hockey, or we might be doing something, and I know that the alarm is going to go off. Like I'm like, sorry, man, I need to like do my evening protocol. So when you begin to kind of take on this identity of like how I'm a woman who, or I'm a man who, fill in the blank with whatever it is that you want to achieve with this goal. And you start to think like, what does that part of me do? Like picture yourself there. And I used to, I'll tell you a secret. When I first started teaching fitness 30 years ago, I was so nervous. Like I was getting all in my head. And I would go into the handicap bathroom stall in Stanwood at the sports club. Some of you guys might remember it from Stanwood if you've been with me for a long time. And I would go in the handicap stall and I would tie my shoelaces, and be like trying to pump myself up, hype myself up. But I would picture me teaching a really great class and everybody like super engaged, getting the workout that they needed, happy, super into the experience. And that helped me so much to become that person. So when I walked in the door, I was ready to serve. Like I wasn't in my own head about it. And out of that, I found out later that the act of tying my shoe actually became a neuro association. It's like when you smell something good and you're like, oh, I remember that from my grandma, or like, my grandpa used to smoke a pipe. And so anytime I smell like pipe tobacco, it reminds me of him. But like there's neuro associations that happen when we like embed this identity with an activity. And so your brain is your primitive brain. It's wired to do three things. And write this down if you are writing it down right now. It's called a motivational triad, but it is hardwired to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. So just think that when you are trying to, write down this result that you want in 90 days, you're trying to kind of engage with your emotions. You are embracing the identity and you're writing all this out. Just know that in the background, your little brain is over here, saying, well, that might hurt, or that won't be fun, or that is going to be too hard. Just know that and be like, okay, I hear you, but in the modern world, this, our brain was meant to do this primarily, but in the modern world right now, it can do so much harm to us, because now what ends up happening is if we're always trying to avoid pain and we're always seeking pleasure and conserving energy, it gets us in a loop where it's hard to break out and do the things that we want to do, because now we're a society that maybe is overeating, over drinking, overspending, over consuming, overindulging, and it actually does make you sick and can make you feel, addicted or miserable or not in the best place for you to actually go after all of those goals that you want in the 90 days. So let's see. Let's kind of go back now. So we've talked a little bit about how to think about the goal, what to expect, around the goal, the limiting beliefs. And again, how that process happens in terms of your thoughts become your beliefs, become your actions. And one thing that I know things kind of will get hung up on is the emotion part. And it's interesting how, whenever we're trying to do something, a lot of times we're driven not by the thought, we're driven by an emotion. So, for example, if you're feeling like you're not in shape, it's not the thought that comes first. It's that feeling. Like, I feel like I'm not in shape. My emotions are like, I don't feel good about myself. And so, one thing that I remember going through is that you can't get from depression to happiness in one big jump, right? And there's this tool that I'll send you. It's called the feelings wheel. It's used a lot in behavioral science, but it talks about how, like, if you are trying to be, if you are in a state of say confusion, and you are upset and you're highly charged, you're not going to be able to just flip the switch and go from confusion and anger and frustration to happy. You can't. It's not feasible. It's not a switch, it's a dial. And so just know that, like, when you are feeling these emotions throughout your day where you're just like feeling defeated or you're feeling like nothing's changing, allow yourself to feel that feeling and process that emotion and go, okay, well, I'm kind of feeling this way. What was the thought or the thing that kind of triggered this emotion? And really kind of get down with your words to be able to put it down on paper, because you might not be able to get from full frustration and anger, but you might be able to get to acceptance, or you might be able to get to like maybe even like approval, like they're allowed to have their feelings, or empathy, or some type of other understanding. And then as you go through this and as you kind of unpack it, as they say, you'll be able to move that dial a little bit faster each time. And I'm going to send you guys the life wheel because I feel like it's really good. But the benefit of using this tool, helping you understand like how feelings are expressed, how do you move those emotions? How do you kind of connect emotions? Because a lot of times each emotion is very distinct, but they're always connected in some way. And how they influence each other, I think, will be really, really helpful. At least for me, it was. And I started realizing that it was really, really easy for me to kind of, if I was getting frustrated or overwhelmed, to just take a second and let me just have some gratitude for this minute. Like, let me just be thankful that I'm able to listen and hear and think with my own brain and process all of this, so that it's not going to negatively affect me unless I choose it to negatively affect me. So what are the internal emotions and experiences that you're having around your current belief? If your goal is for health and fitness and relationships and building businesses, what emotions are coming from that when you think about this result that you want in 90 days? Because you can start changing that right now. And we're going to go into how to change your emotional state. Questions? I'm going to pause for a second for questions. I agree, Diana. Listening to the news is like, sometimes you just have to guard your peace. And it is so interesting, like, they say emotions are energy in motion. So when you're feeling an emotion, you know how, like, sometimes your neck will get red and your eyes will start to water, or you'll start feeling your blood pressure rise. Emotions are energy in motion. And so, a lot of times you can't, some people can turn off the emotional state and just kind of go numb. And that actually is happening a lot in our world, I think. But you can actually bring the energy to it in order to flush it. So that's the reason why, like, sometimes going for a hike is so good, because it gives you a chance to kind of move your body and like shake out some of the blocked energy so that you can actually think clearly and you can listen to what is going on. You know, they say prayer is you talking and meditation is you listening. And I believe that, like, sometimes when we move our body, we're able to hear things that we haven't been able to hear because, we're still or stagnant. And so when we go to dance class, when we get in nature, when we go do fun things to get our body moving, sometimes if I'm stressed out, I just get up and I just have to walk around a little bit. And if you've ever seen animals, even like when they're stressed out, they shake, right? Like, have you ever seen your cat or dog, like if they're processing something, like they shake? Our bodies were never meant to hold emotion in. Like, our bodies were never meant for that. It was meant for us to experience the emotion, process it, and learn so that we could strengthen our own emotional resilience and take ourselves into the community where we are now better and we've learned more, and then we can teach other ones. It's like each one teach one, right? And so when you like hold on to the emotion and you're unwilling to process it, you guys, like, it will feel heavy. It will feel like a burden. You have to somehow figure out how to process all of it. And the good thing about processing the emotion that I have found is that it makes you more confident, because you're unafraid now. You're not afraid of feeling uncertain. You're not afraid of, like, crying. You're not afraid of being vulnerable. You're not afraid of any of that stuff, because okay, this is just an emotion. This is just something that I gotta let happen, that I gotta work through, that I gotta listen to what my body is trying to, tell me at this moment in time. And it's okay. And then we gotta let it go. And imagine if, like, somebody told me, like, imagine if you've got a backpack on, and every time there's an emotion, you don't want to deal with it, and so you just pick it up and you throw it in your backpack, and you keep on going down the road. And then you see another emotion or another situation, another limiting belief that brings your, energy up, and you're like, I can't deal with this right now. So you throw it in your backpack. And you keep doing this time after time after time, and you're internalizing all those feelings, or worse, you're fighting them. Or maybe you're, like we talked about before, like, I'm just going to ignore them, I'm going to be numb, or I'm just going to store them in my backpack. Well, no wonder we're so tired. Like, imagine how tired you would feel carrying all of that stuff. And our bodies, you have to know, are built to feel these emotions. That's the reason why we have them. That we have tears, that we have our blood pressure, that we have all these different things. They're meant to be felt and processed so that we can gain that clarity, that new perspective, that self-awareness, that emotional resilience, the empathy. It's meant for that. So I will tell you right now, like, I grew up in a really abusive home, and it was sexual abuse. So it wasn't like I was getting, punched in the face or any of that terrible stuff. But the sexual abuse is terrible. It is terrible. And I remember thinking, like, I'm just going to bury this, because if I don't tell anybody, or if I don't think about it, then it'll go away. And I will tell you, after 40 some years, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. It's not meant to go away. But my perspective on it and my thoughts about it can shift, and did shift. And so it's not like it never happened, because it absolutely did happen. And the things in our lives that have been traumatic have happened. There is no denying it. But we can choose the meaning that we give to that. We can choose what the new narrative is going to be. We can choose how we let that narrative continue in our body. And it's interesting, because, like, from a physiological standpoint, when you think a thought, your brain automatically tells your body, go make an emotion. That's what happens. And in that emotion, it affects you two ways. It affects you internally on how you feel about yourself and how what emotions you're actually feeling, stress, anger, depression, all of those different things. But it also affects you outside, your external environment, on how you show up in the world. And so it's one of those things where it's like it's making this chemical cocktail. And so if you hold on to those thoughts and you don't process that emotion, you are just carrying that within yourself. And it poisons you, unfortunately. So you get to decide what and how you respond because it has long-term effects on you. And, my coach told me every emotion that you're unwilling to process is a lesson that you're unwilling to learn. And you guys, that hit me so hard because I was like, it's a lot. Like, okay, where do I begin? And that's when all of this kind of started, where it begins by like saying, okay, and even if I see your comment, like, even if your emotions are all over the place and you feel like you can't accomplish stuff when they flare up, oh man, that is the time where you have to say, I owe it to myself and I owe it to this life for me to like sit down with it and get it all out, write it out, say it out, cry it out, move your body so that you can move that blocked energy, because that's what it is. It's unprocessed energy that manifests itself in your body. And this is there's been so many studies about how we internalize. And there's a really great book called The Body Keeps Score. There's a ton of stuff by Louise Hay that also talks about like how we hold things in our body and how they show up in our body. And you don't have to do them all at one time, you guys. Like if you are feeling all these emotions and it feels like it's all over the place, just start with one. Just start with one emotion and just be like, okay, I right now feel sad. Is that me being bored? Is that me being tired? Is it me feeling depressed or disappointed? Like, what is it that I'm actually feeling? And that's why the wheel that I'm going to send you just is so, so helpful. I just feel like it just helps you bring awareness so that you can get it out and figure out like, okay, what is the root cause of that? And how do I change my emotional state? And you can ask yourself, like, what can I start doing to change the way that I'm feeling right now? And let your body kind of tell you what it is that you need to do. And you can challenge it. It's not necessarily, I need to have another glass of wine. I need to, go do something. Like a lot of people, shopping is their default. When they start feeling bad about themselves because maybe they don't look a certain way, they go shopping for new clothes. Or if they are feeling, like they can't sort through stuff, then they just, let's medicate it somehow. And, it makes sense. Like it makes sense why we would do that. But there's other ways that you can shake out the emotion by moving your body and caring for your emotional state by honoring what it's trying to tell you. Because I guarantee you, lessons are repeated until learned. And so if the world, the life, the universe, God, whoever you believe in wants you to learn this lesson, your higher self wants you to learn this lesson, listen, you get like 50,000 thoughts a day. You get to choose which ones you're going to like hold on to for that day, which is really, really powerful when you realize that you can do that, right? Are you willing to die to the parts of yourself that don't want to take in the new piece of you? You're going to have to, right? We all have to, because in order to make room for that, there has to be something that goes away. And let's say that the thing that goes away is the negative self-talk in our mind. So once you start getting all of this out, there's this thing called a creation wheel. And it is, again, something that I will send to you. And basically, this is it in a nutshell. You think the thought, you write it down, all the thoughts that you have. I'm overwhelmed, I'm this is what I'm thinking about when I think about this. This is what it means to me. You think, then you write down the feelings that you're feeling in those thoughts. I'm feeling helpless. I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling all these things. And then you think about, what are those actions that I'm doing that I'm keeping myself in this cyclical pattern? What am I doing to myself? Am I feeling sorry for myself? Am I, what actions am I doing? Do I just stay in bed all day? Do I doom scroll? Do I, do nothing? Because that happens. You can also use the same creation cycle on what you want. So if you're feeling like, what, my thought is that I feel that I'm overwhelmed and that I don't know where I'm going and I keep hearing all this stuff, you can start telling yourself, well, actually, because I've written down those things and then did the other side to it, actually, I handle stress pretty well. Like, I am a person that finds solutions. I can solve my own problem, especially if it will help others. Maybe this is here to teach me something. And okay, what do I need to be thinking in order for me to come into the identity of somebody who is healthy, fit, and strong, who is disease free, who is, can handle the hard things. Like, you start realizing and falling into that identity. Now, if you were thinking those thoughts, then what would the feelings feel like? Those feelings would feel like, oh, I feel hopeful. I feel optimistic. I feel energized. I feel happy. I feel like I'm progressing. And if you have those feelings, what are the actions now that you'll take? You won't stay home. You'll get out of bed. You'll go meet with friends. You'll tell your story. You'll, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like all the different things that you could do when you know that your goal is inevitable and when you've made that, transformation. So tell me in the chat, maybe a time when you saw that transformation, like you did it. Maybe you didn't even realize you were doing it, but maybe when you just did it inadvertently, maybe it was something that was planned that you took charge of, or maybe it was something that was unplanned, but it still worked for you. Tell me in the chat if you have any of those. And I'm going to put, this link in here to make sure that I have your emails. I think I have most of your emails. There's a little bit of a delay, just so that you know, on my side on the chat. I love that. Would love to decrease all the thoughts at bedtime. Yeah. That's why I do the 9 o'clock thing. Cause I know, when you're in hyperdrive, sometimes you can't slow down the thoughts. And so for me, because I'm a woman who takes excellent care of herself, what has worked for me is going through this thing like, okay, what would she do, this woman who takes excellent care of herself? Well, she would take a hot shower. She would, smell the favorite things that she loves to smell. She would not feel rushed. She would take time to journal. She would turn off the TV. She would drink water. She would show appreciation to my loved one. Like, these are all things that like I started doing so that by the time that I got to bed, I felt like, oh, I'm ready to rest. And I would write in at the end of the night, like all the great things that had happened that day. And one of the things that I do in the daytime is, I tell myself a couple things. One is everything's always working out for me. And I have that like written all over the place. And so at the end of the night, I write like what worked out for me today. And a lot of times there's just so much stuff where I'm like, oh, I got to meet this person, or I got to do this thing, or I got to see this thing, like see my grandkids, or I got to, witness something or feel something or eat something. But you start kind of thinking about like all of that stuff, and it's really quite incredible when you go to bed at night with gratitude about all of that stuff and the good versus like all the racing thoughts. And it's going to be different for everybody, right? Like it's just going to be so different for everyone. And that's the reason why this is so good for you guys to do on your own, is because you have the answers. Like you already have all the answers. You just need to like get them out, like get them to a place where you can see and ask yourself. Einstein had this really great quote. He said, if I had an hour to figure out the world's biggest problems, I would spend 55 minutes asking the right questions, because really that's where it all comes into play, is writing down, asking yourself, what are those questions that I need to get to really what it means. Okay, so we went through all of that. You know what to do with the emotional state. You've got the idea on the identity. And now what, right? Like what works for me, and like I said, I was just sharing with you guys what has worked for me, is this is exactly what my journal looks like. I write at the top of the thing, what is my goal? And I write it every day. So whatever yours is, write it at the top of a piece of paper, get yourself a journal. I have a bunch. If you want one, I'll bring one to you or send it to you. Then I write down, what are my top 3 things that I want to do today that will help me get closer to my goal? So that's the second thing. Then the third thing is, what thought do I really want to practice today? Like, what do I want to remember today? And it can be anything. It might just be like, I'm a person who drinks water every day, or I'm a person who moves my body, whatever the thing is. I'm the person that builds relationships. This thought is the one that you're going to focus on for the day. And then you can have your tasks. I got to drop off the dry cleaning. I got to take the kids. I got to do all this stuff. One thing that I added in is my VIP person. And this was really fun. We're talking about gamifying. My VIP person is somebody in my life that I just want to hold some love for. I want to either show or think of or hold in my heart. They are my VIP person for the day. And there is a chemical release of oxytocin when you do this. We are made to be with and for each other. The next thing is movement. What kind of movement can I do today to literally move blocked energy? And you guys, that can be like just a walk, really. Gratitude, obviously, what am I grateful for? And that can be a one-liner, one word. And then the last thing, if you want extra credit, is how will I nourish my mind, body, and soul? And so that might be nourishing your mind, might be reading a podcast, a book, listening, whatever feeds your soul, your mind, your body. Maybe it might be clean eating, drinking water, and your soul might be, reflection and gratitude on the 9 p.m. wind down. So lots of ideas that you can do, but honestly, you guys, you already have all the answers. You just kind of got to get out the piece of paper and spend that time. And if you feel like it's a lot, it may be, but you can do it. You can sit down with your thoughts and get it out on the paper, and DM me if you need some help. I can help you to walk through it. So, okay, we are at time with 3 minutes left. And I am so thankful for you guys. I'm so glad that you jumped on, and I'm so glad that you were willing to put some things in the chat. If anything resonated with you, please let me know. Please let me know how I can support you, how I can help. That link that's in there is to sign up for the email, so I can send you all of these resources. I know I have the email for a lot of you guys, but just in case you haven't given me your email, click that link and then sign up for that. And then I'll send you all of these things that I went through. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, you guys, I love you guys. Have a great rest of your night. And thanks for hopping on the new stream, since that other one was crazy. We'll figure that one out. And I'll see you in dance class.